The market was alive with noise and color. Stalls were shining with strange alien fruits, glowing fabrics, and mechanical gadgets that hummed with energy. Voices of traders filled the air, some shouting in deep alien tones, some whispering in soft human accents. The crowd moved like a restless river, pushing and pulling through the narrow paths of the Grand Bazaar. Among this chaos, a poor human walked slowly, his clothes torn and dusty. His shoes were old, his face thin, and his eyes tired yet calm. He carried no bags, no coins to spend, only a silent wish that today he might find a little food or some kind soul willing to share. Many looked past him, ignoring him as if he was nothing more than a shadow. But there was one thing that made him different. Around his wrist was a bracelet. It was not shiny or new. It was old, scratched, and simple in design. Yet it carried a strange beauty, small stones set into silver metal, glowing faintly in the dim light of the market. The human wore it not for fashion, but because it was the only thing he had left from a trade he made long ago. Across the market, an alien figure stepped out of a black, floating carriage. The crowd fell silent as guards in dark armor spread out, clearing the path. The alien billionaire had arrived. He was tall, dressed in robes woven with golden threads that shimmered under the twin suns. His eyes were sharp, glowing green with an aura of authority. Wherever he went, merchants bowed their heads and even other aliens lowered their voices. He was known across the galaxy for his power, wealth, and pride. The billionaire was not here to shop. He had everything he ever wanted, but his eyes, trained to notice rare treasures, scanned the crowd with habit. Then suddenly he stopped. His gaze locked on the poor human, or rather, on the bracelet around the human's wrist. The billionaire's heart skipped a beat. For a moment, the noise of the market disappeared from his mind. That bracelet, he knew it. He remembered its weight, its glow, its story. Years ago, he had gifted it to someone he trusted more than his own life. That person was gone now, lost in betrayal and silence. But the bracelet should never have left their hands. And yet, here it was, shining faintly on the wrist of a ragged human. His breath grew heavy. Anger and shock clashed in his chest. How did this worthless human have it? He took a step forward, his guards moving with him like shadows. The crowd parted quickly, sensing danger. Merchants pulled their goods closer. Mothers held their children, and silence spread as the billionaire approached the human. The poor human noticed the sudden quiet. He lifted his head and saw the alien billionaire walking toward him. His heart began to race. Everyone knew who this alien was. He had heard stories. Some called him a ruthless king. Others whispered he was a man of impossible pride. Whatever the truth, his presence was heavy, and the human's weak legs almost froze in fear. The billionaire stopped in front of him, his glowing eyes fixed on the bracelet. "Where did you get that?" His voice was calm, yet sharp like a blade. It cut through the silence of the market. The human looked down at his wrist. For a second, he didn't understand. "This bracelet?" he asked, his voice small. He touched it gently, as if protecting it. It was given to me. In trade." His throat was dry, his words unsure. "I did not steal it." The billionaire's face darkened. "Given by whom?" His guards stepped closer, their weapons shining with cold light. The crowd gasped but dared not speak. The human trembled, but his voice grew a little stronger. I bought it. From a woman. She was starving. She needed food. She sold this to me many years ago." He looked up into the billionaire's eyes, afraid yet unwilling to lie. "It is mine now." The billionaire's eyes narrowed. The mention of a woman stirred old memories, painful and sharp. His chest tightened as images of the past flashed in his mind. The day he placed that bracelet on the wrist of someone he once loved. The promises exchanged. The betrayal that followed. That bracelet was not just jewelry. It was a symbol of trust, of something he thought would last forever. The market stood still. Every being waited, breath held, to see what the alien billionaire would do. Would he take the bracelet by force? Would he punish the poor human for daring to wear something that once belonged to his past? Or would he demand answers that the human might not even have? The poor human's hand shook slightly as he held the bracelet close to his chest. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper, but firm. "I did not know it belonged to you. I only know it was precious to someone, and I kept it safe." The billionaire's eyes burned with a storm of emotions. Anger, confusion, sorrow. The guards tensed, waiting for his command. The poor human stood frozen, uncertain if he would live or die in the next breath. And then in that moment of silence, one thought echoed louder than the rest inside the billionaire's mind. If this human has the bracelet, then what happened to the one I gave it to? The question shook him more than the sight of the bracelet itself. His powerful voice broke the silence once more, carrying across the market like thunder. Tell me everything. The poor human's words echoed in the alien billionaire's mind like thunder. I bought it. From a woman. A woman. The moment he heard it, a wave of memories crashed over him. The bustling market, the guards, even the poor human faded from his vision. His mind slipped into the shadows of the past, pulling him back to the moment when the bracelet had first left his hands. He had not always been a billionaire, not always a man surrounded by wealth and power. Long ago, when he was younger, he had lived through battles of blood and fire. In those days, his heart had not yet hardened. There had been a softness, a warmth, something he had buried deep over the years. And at the center of those memories was her. She was not just anyone. She was the one he had trusted with his life. Her smile had been brighter than the stars, her voice softer than any song. When he gave her the bracelet, it had not been a casual gift. It had been a vow. On that night, under the light of the twin moons, he had promised her loyalty, protection, and love. The bracelet was forged from the rarest silver stone of his world. Each gem set into it glowed faintly with a light that never faded. It was said the stones could sense the emotions of the one who wore them. In his culture, giving such a bracelet meant binding one's soul to another. He had believed it would stay with her forever. But forever had ended too soon. His memory turned darker. He recalled the betrayal, the night when he returned from battle only to find her gone. No explanation, no farewell, only silence. The bracelet he had given her disappeared with her, leaving nothing but questions that had never been answered. He had built his empire after that night, stone by stone, deal by deal, crushing rivals and buying power. His wealth grew. His reputation spread across the stars. To others, he was unshakable, untouchable, a man of iron will. But inside, the wound of betrayal never healed. And the missing bracelet was the proof of that wound. Now, after all these years, here it was, not on the wrist of an enemy, not locked in a collector's vault, but worn by a fragile, starving human. How could this be? His glowing eyes returned to the poor human in front of him. His voice, heavy with restrained emotion, pressed forward. This woman, what did she look like? The human blinked, confused by the sudden question. I do not know her name, he stammered. Her hair was dark, her face thin, tired. She looked like someone who had carried too much pain. She was not young, not old, her eyes. They were sad. The billionaire's chest tightened. The description fit too well. It had been years since he had last seen her. Could it truly have been her? Had she fallen so low that she sold the very symbol of their bond for food? 1,000 questions stormed his mind. If it was her, why had she sold it? Why had she not come back to him? Why had she chosen silence over truth? The crowd around them remained frozen, watching silently. None dared to interrupt, for the tension between the alien billionaire and the human was like a thread stretched to breaking. The billionaire's hands curled into fists. His pride screamed at him to be angry, to see this as proof of her betrayal. But another voice inside whispered something different. Perhaps there was more to the story, something hidden that he had never known. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, and the memory of her smile returned. That smile had once been his strength, his reason to fight. Could such a smile truly belong to a traitor? Or had someone else stolen her fate, twisted her life into suffering? When he opened his eyes again, his voice was quieter but sharper. You said she was starving. Tell me exactly what happened. The human swallowed nervously, recalling the day. It was years ago. I found her near the outer districts. She looked weak, like she hadn't eaten for days. She offered me this bracelet if I gave her food. At first I thought she was lying, but her hands, they were shaking. I gave her what little bread I had, and she pressed this bracelet into my hand. She told me to keep it safe because it once belonged to someone who would never return. The billionaire's heart stopped for a moment at those words. Someone who would never return. His guards shifted uneasily. They had never seen him like this, so silent, so torn. Usually his anger was quick, his commands absolute. But now, something deeper was breaking through his cold armor. He turned his gaze upward, staring into the skies above the market. For the first time in decades, doubt filled his soul. If she truly had said those words, then maybe her disappearance had not been betrayal. Maybe it had been something else. The bracelet on the human's wrist glowed faintly in the sunlight, as if mocking him, as if reminding him of the truth he had ignored all these years. The billionaire's jaw tightened. His voice, heavy with both sorrow and rage, escaped his lips. "I must know the truth." And with those words, his mind was set. The past had risen from its grave, and he would not rest until he uncovered what had really happened. The market still held its breath. The poor human stood trembling, unsure whether he had saved his life by speaking honestly or signed his own death by reminding the alien billionaire of painful memories. Around them, merchants stayed frozen in their stalls. Guards kept their weapons raised, and whispers moved like shadows through the crowd. Everyone could feel that something powerful was about to happen. The billionaire's glowing eyes never left the bracelet. His voice, when he finally spoke, carried the weight of a storm. "You wear what does not belong to you. Do you know what that bracelet means?" The human swallowed hard. His throat was dry, but he found courage in honesty. "No, I do not," he admitted. "But I know it meant something to the woman who gave it away. She looked broken when she sold it, as if she had lost everything. I thought keeping it safe was the least I could do." The billionaire's jaw tightened. His guards stepped closer, ready to seize the human at a single command. One raised his weapon, the metallic hum slicing the silence. But the billionaire lifted a single hand, halting them. "Not yet," he ordered. His tone was low but sharp enough to cut stone. He stepped forward, closing the distance between himself and the human. The difference between them was vast, one a ruler of wealth surrounded by power, and the other a ragged shadow barely surviving. Yet in this moment all that mattered was the bracelet between them. The billionaire bent slightly, his gaze boring into the human's eyes. "If you lie to me," he said slowly, "you will not live to see the next sunrise." "Tell me every word," she said. "Leave nothing out." The human's chest rose and fell quickly, but he forced himself to stay calm. "She said the bracelet once belonged to someone who would never return. She told me to guard it, because it was all she had left of that person. Then she left, and I never saw her again." The billionaire's breath hitched. Those words stabbed deeper than any blade. The crowd could not see the storm raging behind his calm expression, but inside his heart was torn apart. If it had truly been her, if she had spoken those words, then everything he believed about her betrayal might have been wrong. Still, his pride would not allow weakness in front of the crowd. He straightened, his expression hardening. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. The human nodded slowly. "Yes, everyone knows. You are the richest, the most powerful, the one no one dares to stand against." His voice shook, but his next words carried quiet strength. "And yet here you are, demanding answers from someone like me. Maybe that bracelet means more to you than all your riches." For a second, silence hung heavy. The billionaire's guards stiffened, waiting for their master's rage to explode at such bold words. But instead, the billionaire stared at the human with a strange intensity, as if trying to measure his soul. "You are braver than you look," the billionaire said finally. His voice was low, but his words carried both anger and respect. He turned to his guards. "Search the districts. Find out where this woman was last seen. Bring me every witness, every rumor." The guards saluted and moved quickly, disappearing into the crowd. The billionaire looked back at the human. "And you," he said, pointing at him, "you will come with me." The human's eyes widened. "Me, why? I have nothing more to give." The billionaire's expression hardened. "You have the bracelet. You spoke with her. You carry pieces of the truth that I need, and until I uncover everything, you will not leave my sight." The crowd gasped softly. The idea of a poor human being taken into the company of the galaxy's most feared billionaire was unthinkable. Some pitied the human, others envied him, but all knew his life would never be the same. The human hesitated, fear crawling up his spine. To walk with this alien was to walk on the edge of death itself. Yet deep down he felt something else. A strange sense that his fate was tied to this story now, that he could not run even if he wanted to. He nodded slowly. "I will go." The billionaire gave a short, sharp command. "Bring him." Two guards stepped forward, but instead of chains, they only guided the human. It was not mercy, it was calculation. The billionaire wanted him willing, not broken. For now. As they moved away from the market, the bracelet shimmered faintly in the light as though it sensed the tension between the two. The crowd parted silently, watching as the human was led away at the side of the alien billionaire. Whispers rose behind them like smoke. Who was the woman? Why did the bracelet matter so much? What would happen to the poor human now? The billionaire did not answer those questions. His mind was already racing, torn between anger, grief, and an unstoppable hunger for the truth. But deep inside, where no one could see, another feeling began to stir, something he had buried long ago. Hope. The human walked quietly between the billionaire's guards as they left the market. The floating carriage waited, its black frame glowing faintly with golden patterns. The billionaire stepped inside first, his expression like stone. The guards pushed the poor human in after him, and the door sealed with a soft hiss. Inside, the air smelled of rare spices and burning crystals. The seats were made of silk, and strange lights glowed along the walls. It was a place where comfort met power, but to the human it felt more like a cage. For a long time neither spoke. The billionaire's sharp eyes never left the bracelet, and the human kept his head lowered, his heart beating fast. Finally, the silence broke. "You said she gave it to you," the billionaire said, his voice low. "Did she tell you why?" The human hesitated. He tried to recall every word from that day. She said she no longer had a place, that she had been forgotten. "She told me the bracelet belonged to someone who was never coming back." Her eyes were wet, but she would not cry. She looked broken. The billionaire's chest tightened. His pride wanted to call it a lie, but deep inside he knew the human was telling the truth. He had once known those eyes, once seen them shine with life. To imagine them dim, filled with sorrow, was harder than facing any battlefield. The carriage shook gently as it moved through the city skies. Tall towers passed by, their lights reflecting against the glass. The billionaire turned away, staring into the distance, lost in thought. He remembered the night she vanished. He had returned from war expecting to find her waiting. Instead, he was told she had left, taking the bracelet with her. Whispers of betrayal filled his ears. Some said she had chosen another. Some claimed she had run away with his enemies. In his rage, he had believed them all. He had closed his heart, buried his pain, and built an empire on the ashes of that memory. But now the story had cracks. If she had been starving, if she had been wandering the lower districts with nothing but a bracelet, then she had not left for wealth or power. She had fallen. Something had happened to her, something he had never uncovered. The human finally gathered courage. He lifted his eyes and asked, "Who was she?" "To you?" The billionaire's jaw clenched. For a moment he considered silence. Yet the weight of the past pressed too hard. She was everything, he admitted. His voice was cold, but each word trembled with buried pain. "I gave her that bracelet as a vow. And when she disappeared, I thought she had broken me. I thought she had chosen another life. I built my empire on anger because I believed she betrayed me." The human studied his face. The billionaire looked strong, untouchable, yet for the first time he seemed human, a man, not a god. A man wounded by love and loss. Suddenly, the carriage slowed. The guards outside spoke quickly into their comms. The billionaire frowned. "What is it?" The captain of the guard opened the door slightly. "We found someone, my lord. An old merchant who claims he saw the woman years ago. He begs for audience." The billionaire's pulse quickened. "Bring him." Moments later, a frail alien merchant was pushed inside. His skin was pale, his clothes ragged, but his eyes burned with the hunger of survival. He bowed deeply, trembling. "My lord, I saw her. The woman you seek." The billionaire leaned forward. "Speak, what do you know?" The merchant swallowed hard. "She was hunted, my lord. Hunted by your own men. Years ago when she vanished, they chased her through the city. She begged for mercy, but they called her a traitor. She escaped, barely. I saw her in the alleys bleeding, clutching that bracelet. After that, she disappeared into the slums." The human gasped softly. The billionaire's blood turned cold. His own men, his own command. He had believed the lies, and in his anger he had set the hunt in motion. Without knowing, he had destroyed the only one he had ever loved. The merchant bowed again. "I swear on my life, my lord. I saw it with my own eyes." The billionaire's fists tightened until his knuckles turned white. His chest burned with fury, not at her but at himself. All these years he had lived in hate for the wrong person. All these years she had been suffering while he drowned himself in pride and riches. The human whispered, almost afraid to speak. "So, she didn't betray you." The billionaire closed his eyes. For the first time in decades, his pride cracked. His voice shook as he answered, "No, I betrayed her." The carriage fell silent, the truth heavier than any chains. The guards lowered their eyes, ashamed, for they too understood the weight of what had just been revealed. The bracelet on the human's wrist glowed faintly, as if it too had heard the truth and responded to it. The billionaire stared at it with eyes filled not with anger, but with something else, guilt, grief, and a dangerous new resolve. "I will find her," he whispered, "no matter what it costs." The billionaire sat in silence inside the carriage, his thoughts sharp and heavy as blades. The merchant's words kept echoing in his mind. "She was hunted by your own men." His jaw clenched, his eyes cold with fury. For years he had believed she betrayed him, but the truth was now clear. He had been betrayed not by her but by those closest to him. His own command had twisted the story, poisoned his mind, and driven her into the shadows. The poor human, sitting quietly across from him, watched the storm brewing behind those glowing eyes. Though terrified, he spoke softly. "If your men did this, then someone wanted you to hate her. Someone wanted her gone." The billionaire turned his gaze sharply toward him. "Yes," he growled, "and I will find out who." The carriage landed at the towering gates of his estate. Guards lined the path, their armor shining under the pale suns. Massive doors opened into a hall filled with riches, crystal chandeliers, golden walls, and statues of victories long past. But the beauty of the place now felt hollow, like a mask hiding rot. The billionaire marched forward, his cloak sweeping behind him. The poor human followed, guarded on both sides. Servants bowed as they passed, though fear hung in the air. Everyone could see their master was burning with wrath. At the heart of the estate they entered a grand chamber. The walls glowed faintly with energy shields, and the floor was polished black stone. A table stretched across the center, and waiting there were several of the billionaire's senior advisors and commanders, the men who had stood by him for decades. They rose and bowed. "My lord," one said, "what troubles you?" The billionaire's eyes burned. He placed his hands on the table, leaning forward like a predator ready to strike. "Years ago," he said slowly, "when she disappeared, who gave the order to hunt her?" The room fell silent. The advisors exchanged nervous glances. Finally, one older commander cleared his throat. "My lord, it was necessary. Rumor said she betrayed you, that she planned to flee with your enemies. We acted to protect your honor." The billionaire slammed his fist on the table, and the sound echoed like thunder. "My honor?" His voice was a roar. "You call this honor? You chased her into the streets. You hunted her like prey. You let me believe she had betrayed me when the truth was you betrayed me." The commanders flinched under his fury, but another, braver than the rest, spoke. "My lord, we only did what we thought was best. A leader cannot appear weak. To show mercy to her, it would have destroyed you. We acted for your power." The billionaire's glowing eyes narrowed. "No, you acted for yourselves. You feared her influence, her voice, the way she could bend even me with a single look. You feared losing your control over me, so you poisoned my heart against her." The poor human watched in silence, his chest tight. He had never seen such power, but also never such raw pain. The billionaire was not just angry. He was wounded, betrayed by those he trusted most. Another commander tried to defend himself. "My lord, if you wish, we will find her now. We will finish what we began." The billionaire's voice dropped, cold and deadly. "No, you will do nothing. You have done enough." He straightened, his presence filling the room like a storm about to break. "From this day, you are no longer my advisors. You are traitors. You thought you could protect me by destroying what I loved, but you only built your power on lies." With a gesture, his guards surrounded the commanders. The room filled with gasps as weapons were drawn. "My lord, wait!" one shouted. "We served you for years." The billionaire cut him off with a voice like iron. "And in all those years, you served only yourselves." The guards dragged the commanders away, their protests echoing down the halls. The billionaire stood still, breathing hard, his fists trembling. The human stepped forward carefully. "They feared her because she mattered to you. They wanted her gone so you would be easier to control." The billionaire nodded slowly. His voice was quieter now, but heavy with guilt. "And I let them. I let my pride blind me. I turned against her instead of against the liars around me." He looked down at the bracelet on the human's wrist. For the first time, his expression softened, not with weakness but with sorrow. "She trusted me. I swore to protect her, and when she needed me most, I abandoned her. The room was silent except for his words. The servants kept their eyes lowered, the guards stood frozen. Even the poor human felt the weight of the confession. At last the billionaire straightened. His voice grew sharp again, filled with resolve. No more lies. No more betrayal. I will find her. If she lives, I will beg her forgiveness. If she is gone, then I will avenge her suffering. The human nodded, almost whispering. Then the truth will finally be known. The billionaire's eyes blazed with new fire. Yes, the truth. And those who hid it will regret ever crossing me. The billionaire's estate grew silent after the traitorous commanders were dragged away. The grand hall, once a place of power and pride, now felt heavy with the weight of guilt and betrayal. Servants moved like shadows, afraid to speak, afraid to even breathe too loudly. The billionaire stood near the center, staring at the glowing bracelet still wrapped around the poor human's wrist. For years he had believed himself untouchable. For years he thought pride and wealth were his greatest shields. But tonight, in front of this ragged human, his armor had cracked. The human shifted uncomfortably. He was still afraid. Any wrong word could cost him his life. But there was something inside him that refused to stay silent. He looked at the billionaire and spoke softly. You are powerful, yes. But power blinded you. Pride blinded you. That woman, she suffered because of it. And maybe she still suffers. The billionaire's glowing eyes turned toward him sharply, but the human did not stop. His voice shook, but his words carried strength. I may be poor, he continued. I may own nothing but these torn clothes and this old bracelet. But I know this. When someone gives you their trust, you protect it with your life. You do not throw it away because of whispers. You do not crush it because others tell you to. The guards shifted nervously, glancing at one another. No one had ever dared speak to their master like this. Not kings, not generals, not even rivals. Yet this poor human, trembling in front of him, spoke without chains on his tongue. The billionaire's eyes narrowed. His voice was like thunder. You dare lecture me in my own hall? The human swallowed, fear crawling down his spine. But he stood his ground. Yes, because someone has to. Your riches did not save her. Your power did not protect her. And your pride nearly destroyed her. If you want redemption, you cannot rely on soldiers or gold. You must face your own weakness. The hall froze. The guards stiffened, expecting their master's rage to fall like a hammer. But instead of anger, something else flickered in the billionaire's eyes. Respect. For a moment, he saw not a beggar, not a fragile human, but a mirror of something he had lost long ago. Honesty, courage, and a heart unafraid of truth. The billionaire's chest rose and fell heavily. Then he laughed, a deep, bitter sound that echoed through the hall. Strange, he said. I command empires, and yet it is a starving human who dares to tell me what no one else would. The human looked down, his voice quiet but steady. Sometimes it is the ones with nothing who see the clearest, because they have nothing left to lose. The billionaire's laughter faded and silence returned. He stepped closer, towering over the human. Yet his voice, though heavy, had softened. You have courage, more than most warriors I've known. He glanced at the bracelet. Perhaps it is fate that you were the one to keep it safe. Perhaps fate brought you here for this moment. The human raised his eyes slowly. Fate didn't bring me here, he said. Her suffering did. And your blindness did. If you want to make things right, then you must change. Not as a billionaire, not as a ruler, but as a man. The billionaire's heart throbbed at the words. He had built his empire by crushing those who challenged him. But this challenge was different. This challenge came from truth. He nodded slowly, his face serious. You are right. Pride destroyed me once. It will not again. The guards exchanged glances, unsure whether they had just witnessed their master's weakness or his greatest strength. The billionaire placed a heavy hand on the human's shoulder. You will stay by my side, he declared. Not as a prisoner, but as a witness. A witness to my search for her. If I fall into pride again, it will be your voice that reminds me. The human's eyes widened. Me, but I am no warrior. I am no advisor. The billionaire's gaze burned with resolve. No, you are something rarer. Honest. The hall echoed with the words. The billionaire turned to his guards. Prepare the ships. Tomorrow we search beyond the slums. We will find her trail, and if she is alive, I will see her again. The human, though uncertain, felt a strange strength rise inside him. For the first time in his life, his words had carried weight. His courage had mattered. He was no longer just a shadow in the market. He was part of something far greater. The billionaire looked one last time at the glowing bracelet. His voice was firm, unshakable. I swore to protect her once. This time I will not fail. And with that vow, the hall filled not with silence, but with a dangerous, unstoppable hope. The next day, the billionaire's estate buzzed like a hive. Ships were fueled, guards were armed, and scouts were dispatched into the farthest corners of the city. Word spread quickly across the districts. The great billionaire was searching for someone. To the common people, it was a mystery. To his closest men, it was a dangerous obsession. But at the center of it all stood the poor human, still wearing the old bracelet. He had never felt so out of place, surrounded by soldiers in polished armor, standing inside a palace where golden walls reflected the light of twin suns. Yet somehow the billionaire wanted him there. Hours stretched into days. Search parties returned with rumors, scraps of information, whispers of a woman who once wandered the streets like a shadow. Some claimed she was dead. Others swore they had seen her leave the city. None could give proof. The billionaire's temper grew darker with each false lead, but his resolve did not waver. He would not stop. At last, one evening, a guard rushed into the hall. He knelt quickly, his voice trembling with urgency. "My lord, we found her." The hall fell silent. Even the air seemed to pause. The billionaire's eyes blazed. "Where?" "In the ruins beyond the lower districts," the guard answered. "She is alive, but weak. Too weak to run." Without another word, the billionaire moved. The human followed, his heart pounding. He could not believe the journey that had brought him here. From a starving beggar in the market to standing beside the galaxy's most feared man on the brink of truth. The ship roared across the skies, landing near the ruins. Broken walls and collapsed towers marked the place, once a proud part of the city, now abandoned to silence. There, in the shadows of the rubble, they found her. The woman sat against a cracked wall, her frame thin, her hair streaked with dust and age. Yet her eyes, though tired, still carried a quiet strength. She looked up slowly as the figures approached, and when she saw the billionaire, her breath caught. For a long moment, neither spoke. Years of silence, of pain, of unanswered questions filled the space between them. At last, she whispered, her voice fragile. "So, you finally came." The billionaire froze. His chest burned with guilt. "I should have come years ago," he admitted. His voice, usually sharp as steel, broke like glass. "But I was blinded. I believed the lies. I thought you betrayed me." Her eyes softened with sorrow. "And when I needed you most, you sent your men to hunt me." The billionaire's face twisted with pain. He fell to one knee before her, the proudest man in the galaxy, bowing in shame. "I know it was my greatest sin. I let them turn me against you. I let my pride destroy everything. If you cannot forgive me, I will not blame you." The human, watching silently, felt his throat tighten. He had never imagined such a moment. The mighty kneeling before the broken, the rich admitting fault to the poor. The woman's eyes fell on the bracelet around the human's wrist. For the first time, she smiled faintly. "You kept it safe," the human nodded softly. "Yes, I didn't know its meaning, but I knew it was important. I promised myself I wouldn't let it be lost." Tears touched her eyes. "Then you carried the memory I could not." The billionaire's hand trembled as he reached toward her, but stopped, afraid she might reject him. "If you allow it," he said, his voice shaking. "I will make this right. Whatever life remains to us, I will spend it proving my vow was not empty." For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then slowly she placed her frail hand in his. Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of years. "Then let us not waste what time is left. The past cannot be erased, but it can be forgiven." The billionaire closed his eyes, relief and sorrow crashing together. For the first time in decades, he felt something stronger than pride. He felt peace. The human turned away slightly, his chest heavy with emotion. He had seen enough suffering to know that such forgiveness was rare. And in that moment, he realized something. Sometimes even the strongest need saving, not from enemies, but from themselves. As they returned to the ship, the billionaire looked at the human. "You showed me courage when no one else would. You reminded me what mattered. From this day, you are not a beggar. You are my ally." "My friend," the human blinked, stunned. His lips parted, but no words came. He simply nodded, his heart full. The ship lifted off, leaving the ruins behind. The city lights glowed in the distance, but for the billionaire, the greatest treasure was no longer his wealth, his power, or his empire. It was the fragile hand he now held, and the truth he had finally faced. And as the bracelet glowed softly in the dim light of the cabin, it seemed to whisper the final lesson. Sometimes the poorest hands carry the richest stories, and sometimes even the proudest hearts must bow to find their way home.